With the approach of Memorial Day, I've been thinking a little about our state song. You know how it goes, by thy rivers gently flowing, Illinois, Illinois. But I've been thinking particularly about the fourth stanza of our official song, because it reads, not without thy wondrous story, Illinois, Illinois, can be writ the nation's glory, Illinois, Illinois. On the record of thy years, Abraham Lincoln's name appears, Grant and Logan and our tears, Illinois, Illinois. Grant and Logan and our tears, Illinois. Well, there are the big three in the days when the country was immersed in strife. Abraham Lincoln, the president and the commander-in-chief of all the armies. And there was Ulysses S. Grant, who, as you remember, used to live in Galena, Illinois, whose amazing military genius finally brought the Union cause around. And then there was General John A. Logan, greatest volunteer general, no doubt, in the Civil War. General Logan came from close to Murfreesboro, Illinois. And that's why I refer to him as the Big Three in those days when the country was fairly torn asunder. Now, I think about it because General John A. Logan, in 1868, became the commander-in-chief of the Grand Army of the Republic. That, as you recall, were the organized veterans, Union veterans after the Civil War. And it was that same General John A. Logan who, in 1868, caused an order to be issued making the 30th day of May of every year Decoration Day. They didn't call it Memorial Day at first, as I remember. They called it Decoration Day for the purpose of decorating the graves of the Union soldiers who gave their all. Subsequently, of course, it came to embrace the veterans of all wars. And so we're standing within the shadow of Decoration Day, within the shadow of Memorial Day, when we think of those who offered their lives on the altar of the country. And well might we do so, because the theme of Memorial Day will obviously be peace. Now, I have one comment to make about General Logan's selection of May 30. Just how long the matter was discussed is hard to say. But certainly they picked out the ideal season of the year for Decoration Day, because it's the season when the flowers bloom. It's the season when the peonies are so arrogant and so bright. I've just taken a look at mine within the last day or so. It's when the roses are so lush and so very gorgeous, particularly if there's plenty of gentle rain. And already the yellow and gold marigolds are striking beautiful heads that they toss in the wind. And what a shimmering delight they really are when they're massed. And then I think of those showy petunias, that humble little flower that now comes in so many candy stripes and so many hues and variations and blends, that it's almost impossible to believe that nature can do this with her paintbrush, but she does. And then the geraniums, for which I have quite a special fondness, stand there so haughty in all their dark, brilliant color. And the iris, that are so stately and delicate. And then, of course, the shrubs that come. The spirea, just great masses of white bloom. And the mock orange, and the wigelia, and the snowballs, and the lilac. What a time, then, for Decoration Day, and how well General Logan made his selection. Now, I said there will be speeches and the theme of peace will be ringing all over the country. Why, they'll be talking from 10,000 platforms and pulpits about Memorial Day, and the theme with variations will be the same. That plowshares should be beaten into, or spears into pruning hooks and swords into plowshares. That universal and durable and lasting peace should come to all mankind. That war shall be no more, and that the instrumentality of high explosive shells, and poison gas, and tanks, and all these other instrumentalities of death can sometime be put away if mankind will only come to its senses. That will be the great theme from one end of the country to the other. And while those words are echoing, of course they'll be decorating the graves in all the national cemeteries, not only here at home, but in France, in Korea, in Italy, and wherever the last remains of an American soldier might be found. It stimulates the thought, of course, as these entreaties and these appeals are made about the ghastly casualties of war. I have some doubt that we fully appreciate what it's like. I went back to chase down a few figures just to make sure, and they disturb me even now, and I've familiarized myself with them year after year. But think of World War I when I was a soldier, and we had 37.5 million casualties for all the armies. 37.5 million. Now, 8.5 million of those were killed in battle or directly as a result of battle. 8.5 million in World War I. That's an almost unbelievable thing. But World War II was even worse. There, the battle deaths for all the countries, and I re-emphasize it, the battle deaths were nearly 11.5 million. I did a little charting with pencil this morning, coming into work, and I thought, how can you visualize 11.5 million people killed in the course of a war? If you massed them all together, how much would it be? Well, if they were marching down a highway in a column of fours across, and you allowed 3 feet for all the files of soldiers, it would amount to a course 1,600 miles long. Can you envision 1,600 miles of soldiers marching, whose life was snuffed out in the course of a single war? It's an almost unbelievable total. And if somehow it could be made impressive, perhaps it would expedite the actions of mankind in the direction of a firm and a durable peace. But how close are we to peace? Well, lift your eyes like Ishmael did in the wilderness, and just behold the firmament of the world. First, Vietnam, 12,000 miles from here. There we have thousands upon thousands of advisors, as we call them. But you can call them what you like, they're still soldiers, and many of them are Marines. And while that treaty of 1954, under which so-called Indochina was petitioned between North Vietnam and South Vietnam, the fact remains that if you're an advisor, you're just as dead as if you were a soldier and were called a soldier. But there they are, mauling each other. And I would guess, as of now, that perhaps well over 30,000 Vietnamese have lost their lives in this war. And our totals are running into the hundreds. That doesn't sound like peace, does it, as we approach Memorial Day? I think of Malaysia, which separated itself from Indonesia and now trying to maintain its independence. And yet Sukarno, arrogant leader of Indonesia, is sending in his paratroopers and trying to disrupt the independence of Malaysia and take it back into his own orbit. That doesn't sound like peace, does it? Or I think of Korea, where we have to maintain a constant watch and vigil along the 34th parallel. It is separated between North and South Korea. And there, sleeping in the United Nations cemeteries, are boys from all over the world, including our own, who fought out there a bloody war that cost thousands upon thousands of lives. And yet, North and South Korea seem to be separated today, and we are no closer to peace between those two halves of the country. I think of the Congo, and I saw a squib in the press this morning that it is so much better than it was. And yet, even there, the rebels and the government troops are fighting every so often, and who shall say how long it will take before the country is pacified? That doesn't sound like peace, does it? I think of tiny Formosa, where the nationalist government of China is located. I've been there several times. I've inspected their troops. Small as Formosa is, 600,000 young men under arms at all times and constantly on the alert that they be not overwhelmed by surprise by the troops from Red China. That doesn't sound like peace, does it? Or I think of the Dominican Republic, where they've been killing hundreds and hundreds as the government junta and the rebels have been in constant clash within the capital city of Santo Domingo itself. That doesn't sound like peace, does it, as we stand on the threshold of another Memorial Day? And then I think of Colombia and Bolivia and Honduras, where there is this madness and this ferment. That don't sound like peace, does it? And then I think of Yemen, off in the Middle East, and the efforts of Nasser, the leader of Egypt, to try to reduce this little country with the thousands of troops that he has there, and the very best of weapons. That doesn't sound like peace either, does it? So as we stand on the threshold of Memorial Day, you wonder whether mankind has learned anything, and whether there really is an approach to peace. Of course, the root of the evil is very simple. It's the fact that tyrants want to destroy the liberties of people, and those people want to safeguard their liberties, and out of it comes clash and conflict. So that freedom is the essence of the problem in the world today as we prepare to celebrate another Memorial Day. It's good to visit with you.